Welcome. I'm Cynthia Cruz. I'm a partner at Evershed Sutherland, and Kristen Burns is with me today to talk about private BDCs. Private BDCs are a hybrid, effectively, between a private equity fund and a BDC. So Kristen, can you explain a little bit about what a private BDC is in a little more detail?
A private BDC is a BDC that is marketed through the private placement process, generally to accredited investors, but it is similar to a traditional BDC in that it makes public filings with the SEC pursuant to the 34 Act and complies with the Investment Company Act requirements.
And what type of investor do you have to be in order to participate in a private BDC?
An accredited investor, which picks up high net worth individuals and most entities. So we've seen family offices and foreign and U.S. Institutional investors.
And is it generally done through a drawdown or a capital commitment structure?
It is. So investors enter into a subscription agreement with the private BDC, and they make a capital commitment to the company, and the company can draw down upon that capital as they require capital to make investments.
Right, so this is a private offering, so there's no listing. How do the investors get out? How do they transfer their shares?
So far, we've seen that private BDCs have a set end date by which they must either undergo a liquidity event, which can include an exchange listing or possibly a merger or a spinoff. And if they don't accomplish that by the end date, then they wind down.
But the name private BDC is a little bit of a misnomer, right? You have to report through the SEC the same way you would do in any type of a public company, right?
It's very much a misnomer. The private term refers only to the manner in which the offering is made, but it is truly a public company.
So what are some of the advantages of the private BDC structure?
One of the biggest advantages is the capital commitment structure, which allows the company to draw down on funds as investment opportunities arise.
And you mentioned the liquidity. That gives the investors some optionality, or the management team some optionality of what type of entity they may proceed with.
The liquidity event largely gives the management optionality. They can look at market conditions over the life of the BDC and decide which liquidity event makes the most sense for the BDC, or decide not to proceed with a liquidity event.
Right, and the period of time or the process, that can be a little bit shorter, right? What's the reason behind that?
In the private BDC space, the operative SEC document is a Form 10, which is the 34 Act registration statement, and that can be effective in as little as 60 days. And there's no need for a listing process.
Right, so that's quite different than an IPO for if you're talking about going through the SEC process. That's more like a 3-month process if things are going well.
Exactly.
And then as far as the filings, are there state filings? I know in a non-traded BDC structure, there's state filings that could be up to 50 states.
The private BDCs file a Form D with the SEC, and these Form Ds are also filed in the states where sales were made. But the Form D filing is a notice filing, so it is not reviewed, and the blue sky filings are reviewed.
Right. And one of the biggest advantages is the fact that foreign investors can invest through a BDC because it's a corporation, right? That's one of the attractions to the private BDC structure?
Yes, the BDC RIC structure mitigates the need for an offshore feeder fund structure for foreign or tax-exempt investors.
So we've got a timeline here that walks you through the same types of issues we've been talking about. You have to file a Form 10, you have to elect to be a BDC, and then you can start your offering. And we've got this a 12-week time frame. Does that sound like the right timeline?
It's aggressive but possible.
So the reason we wanted to talk to you about private BDCs today is because there's been a lot of activity in this market. As you've seen over the course of time, there has not been a lot of traditional IPO activity. However, there has been quite a few private BDCs started. There's been about 12 of them that have been brought to market since 2016. So this is one of the alternatives you can use in order to access the BDC structure or model. So we also did a more significant or deeper dive into the private BDCs just a few minutes ago, and you can access that through our website. And for more information, go to eversheds-sutherland.com.